May 5th, Cinco de Mayo. Happy Cinco de Mayo to those who might celebrate. Myself, I'm celebrating by talking to you, I guess. It's been a few weeks since the last episode, so a lot of recapping to do. Let's talk about watercolors first. We spent a lot of time in one class learning how to cut mats, because when we make our watercolors, we're never doing it in the standard kind of sizing that they have for frames and mats. So the teacher brought a mat cutter and a bunch of mats to class. We all got to cut custom sizes for our pieces. And it inspired me to get one myself because it's such a huge money saver. It's a bit of an investment to buy the cutter, but if any of you have done custom framing and mat before, it is wildly expensive. It is crazy expensive when you can buy a huge mat, uncut mat, for like $6 and then cut it yourself and put it in any, bargain basement frame or Goodwill frame like I do. It is a fantastic investment if you are creating art that doesn't happen to be to the standard size. So I spent a lot of time framing everything that I've done, and it was kind of fun. And now I've got everything like in a displayable way, or if I want to sell it or give it away, it's ready to go. Otherwise, I painted a lovely little bluebird on some berry branches. It's cute. It's not quite done. I want to embellish it a little bit more. And then we had, sadly, our last watercolor class. I painted some rocks. That was the assignment of the last class. And then had a little goodbye, a little word with my lovely and wonderful watercolor teacher. Let's see how that went.
Okay. Hey everyone, I'm here in my last watercolor class and I'm very sad. This is my wonderful teacher, Corinne Woodward-Wasson, right?
You got it.
I've thoroughly enjoyed the class, learned a lot. You guys have seen all the things I've done. Corinne, did you have anything you wanted to say to my watchers?
You bet.
Okay.
Brooke.
That would be awesome.
I do have something to say.
Great.
Brooke is one of the most delightful students in my watercolor class! Exclamation point. In fact, I would say she's one of the brightest stars in all my 13 years of teaching. Brooke definitely deserves a raise, promotion, award. When she... I was supposed to choose one of those. When she returns to work in July. It has been my honor and pleasure to teach her. Oh, thank you so much, Brooke.
Embarrassing, really.
I mean it. I really do.
Thank you.
In oils class, I finally finished that koi I talked about last time. I think it looks pretty good. I'm quite happy with it. I also almost finished the piece I couldn't talk about last week, which is for the lovely Howard as a work anniversary or work-aversary gift, which is a painting of a photograph that he took in Echo Park in Los Angeles. I started a calla lily on a black panel. I'm really liking how that's coming along. It's pretty much done. I can probably finish it in the next class. And the next class is the last class, so I don't know if I will start something new, but I might. I have another prepped canvas or panel. I have another prepped panel to go, so I might start something new. I might just finish off what I have, and then I'll be sad that it's the last class. In colored pencil class, we did a little colliding of the worlds, and we mixed watercolor with colored pencils. So I did this very bright bird. I'm not sure what kind of bird it is. I keep calling it a parrot in my mind, but it's not a parrot. I have to say, it might be my favorite piece that I've done in this whole thing. I don't know why. I just love it. Also worked a little bit more on the other bird with the pink flowers on the panel. That takes forever. I got a little sick of working on it. So much pink. So much pink. So I started some pink tulips. But I'm doing that one on a panel that's intended for painting. And it's got maybe a little bit too much texture for colored pencil. You can really see the texture through it. So the color's kind of not saturating, I guess, or not solid. I might try some solvent on it. I don't know, but we'll see how that goes. Now let's talk about glass. I think you all know how in love with the glass I am. First of all, gotta toot the horn a little bit. I was featured as Artist of the Day in a Facebook fusing group that has tens of thousands of members. And of course, they pick somebody every day, so it's not a huge honor, but it was just really nice to see my work sort of highlighted like that and recognized, and they picked the first piece I ever did. So that was nice. However, not to go on a completely sour note, but I read this story about this lady who had been doing stained glass for, I don't know, 30 or 40 years. She was in her 70s, and she was carrying some glass through her studio, and she fell, and it sliced her carotid artery, and she died. So, what am I doing? I mean, I cut myself on the regular. I did yesterday on my finger. I do it all the time. In fact, sometimes I don't even notice, and suddenly there's blood all over the glass. But just, a note to self to practice safety at all times. Always know what's in your path if you're walking with glass, and maybe hold it in a way that it wouldn't. So in stained glass class, I finally finished the piece I was working on that incorporated the fused glass. It's all done. I think the design is great. I think it looks really cool with the colors. However, my soldering and cutting of the glass is still a little bit messy, so it's not exactly perfect. Not that it should be perfect, but it is pretty messy when you look at it up close, but I think in a window it'll look fantastic. Next, I'll be working on a terrarium. It's an empty terrarium frame from Michaels that I'm gonna fill up with stained glass. This is the kind of thing I'd prefer to do over windows and panels. I'd like to make useful items like a terrarium, like candle holders, things like that. I need to test my skills on putting together a three-dimensional object. As far as fusing class goes, just an update on some of the pieces I talked about last time. I was able to drape that stained glass style piece, and it is my first draped piece, and it is awesome. I love it. So I actually entered that and a couple of my watercolor pieces into the Phoenix Center for the Arts Student Art Show. The Best in Show prize is a free class, so I'm not going to turn that down, and I guess there's some other smaller prizes for each of the categories of the classes. It is the first art show I've ever entered, and I'm nervous about it. I felt weird even doing it, but it's an experience, and there's a reception that has wine and cheese, so why not? The mosaic style piece that I talked about last time broke. This is what happens. This is the risk you take when you subject glass to searing hot temperatures for the sake of manipulating it to your own will. The piece looked awesome when it came out of the kiln the first time. It's got this like subtle texture on it. Something else happened is that all of this part here I thought was clear. If you look at the original pre-fired piece, this all looks clear, but it's actually a striker glass, which means it fires to a different color. So I had no idea that these pinks and oranges would come up in here, but that's kind of interesting. When we made the molds, I just made this wavy, mushy mold, and somehow when it was slumping into the mold, it cracked like this. So I'm going to try and do something with it. I don't know. I might mount it in a way that shows the crack and sort of use that to my advantage or whatever. I don't know. I could also just break it up and use it in other pieces in the future. The point is, you never know what's going to happen in the kiln. Things can go wrong, and they do. I also did some iridescent underwater scene panels that I might use in a stained glass piece. I did a wind chime with an embossed Arizona cactus flower in it. That's for a friend. That needs to be put together still. I did a sort of exploding candle cover or window piece that when you put the light behind it, this red comes out between the iridescent glass. And an orange dish, which I intended for my aunt, and maybe she'll like it. She loves orange. It's just a dish. In my other simultaneous fusing class, we actually have the class followed by open studio time that we're allowed to use. So every Saturday I've been there for 8 hours just making all this glass as if it's my full-time job. So did a ton of stuff there. I finished that sushi set, got it all slumped. It looks fantastic. I love it. And I was so in love with the strip cut technique that I went ahead with some bright colors and did some more pieces, but I did them thicker, and when you do that you have to dam it, so it doesn't go all over the place, because melting glass wants to be 6 millimeters or 1/4 inch thick, and if you make something that's thicker than that, it will start to spread in the kiln, so you have to dam up the sides. Anyway, with those, I think one piece will just be a standalone piece. The other one I'm cutting up, made some pendants out of it, and still to be done is a drop vessel where you put the piece of glass in a ring and sort of suspend it in the kiln, and the glass falls through the ring and makes a vase or some sort of vessel depending on the shape. That hasn't been fired yet. I'm so excited to see that though, because it'll make an interesting design with the stripes. With the scraps from that, I made a little candle holder. I made just a long piece that will probably just be a display piece. I then tried out what's called the coral technique, but mine turned out more looking like a spider web, but it's basically where you use strips of glass and you lay them together and then they all fuse together and it looks very organic. I tried out the color dilution technique. Dilution. I don't think the color's diluted, but it's diluted. In what will be a bowl with petals, basically you use a colored glass, it could be transparent or opaque, and you lay clear glass on top of it, and when it's transparent, it kind of dilutes the color a little bit and makes it lighter in the spots where the clear glass is. If you do it on opaque glass, it gives it this interesting depth where the clear glass was. It doesn't really dilute the color, but you can definitely see where the clear glass is, and it gives it a little depth. Then I did some random circles intended for bowls, and one of them, after it was fired, I got to use the sandblaster on. I'm now in love with the sandblaster. You sandblast the glass and it creates this matte finish that is just beautiful looking. And after I sandblasted, that will be slumped into a bowl with all my other bowls. Now I'm thinking if I want to set up my own glass studio, I'm going to need a sandblaster and a lap grinder or a wet belt sander. All of this equipment to achieve these results that I'm just in love with. I'm going to have quite the shop. I then tried what's called a gap technique or a lace technique, which is basically you take glass frit, which is just crushed glass of varying coarseness, and you pile it up and you make little sort of holes in it or places where it's thinner, and then when it fires it all melts together with these holes in it. I made 2 pieces which I intend to put together, so we'll see how that fires next week. I made a little rainbow of chakra colors for a friend who would like a worry stone in the chakra colors, so I'll make the worry stone out of that and maybe also use that with some other colorful tiles I made, because I'm going to try glass painting next week, airbrushing or using glass powders or maybe just fireball paint. I also had this thick black piece of glass that I wanted to use, so I know that the bright colors look great on black, so I put together this design that I made up on the spot that looks a little bit maybe like late 70s, early 80s design. I kind of love it a little bit. And then I found this thing at Michael's. It's a little, you can't really see that light in there, but it's a little kind of weird shadow box with this beach design on it. So I made something to put as the background for that, but it's actually going to be the foreground. I'm going to put it all together on one of my own homemade shadow boxes with the fused glass piece that will show the landscape, and you'll just have to wait to see how that comes together. And then with all my extra time in these 8-hour days in the studio, I just made a million pendants with all my scrap glass. I am wearing one right now. I love it. It's got clear, can you see the clear glass in there. Is that all I wanted to talk about? Did I want to talk about anything else? I think that's it for today. So thanks for watching and subscribing and following along. And I'll have another instructional video, as I mentioned before, about stands for stained glass or fused glass pieces. But until then, have a wonderful week, day, month, whatever it is, and I'll see you later.